this week we're going to be going over Chapter 2 tonight on basically malware and attacks, and then we're going to talk about some of these terms up here. We will have a really quick 5-question quiz. Everybody gets 10 points regardless how you do on it, but it kind of helps you kind of like, ooh, I might want to listen. And so, yeah, just kind of like note that. It's just kind of, I'll do that each Tuesday just to kind of reinforce what we've talked about. And it's not exhaustive in any means, just something fun to do. And it's that poll that the poll tool that we used in week 1, we'll use. And this shows a guy, you know, there's been commercials out lately, I don't know if you've seen them, about the guy in the coffee shop and the lady's next to him, and she's like, oh, great, somebody just hacked into my credit card account. And he goes, all right, man, I can go out and buy a whole bunch of cool stuff. And he was the one that hacked it. And then she's like, oh, man. And so I went back and forth, and, it ended with him, she goes, I wonder how people so easily get access to our accounts. And he's literally sitting right next to her in the coffee shop and gives a little smirk on his face. And so, does that happen? Yeah, it definitely happened. Are they that blatant about it? No, not usually, but it's commercial. It's dramatized. But, they're pretty blatant about it, though. It's fairly easy to do a man-in-the-middle attack, which we'll do this semester, where you can have everybody in the cafe or room connecting through your computer, and you see everything that they're doing and every keystroke they're typing in. It's pretty easy to do, believe it or not.
Wait, you don't even have to install a keylogger for them to see what they're doing?
Yeah, no, you don't even have to do that. Not with these new software tools that we'll show you. You don't even have to do that. Believe it or not, most of your keystrokes are sent somewhere via the network if you know what to look for, and you can hackers hack into that without even a keylogger today. It's kind of crazy. So there are some tips to help you learn from that happening, keep from that happening, but we'll show you the dangers of it and some of the, I think it's fun because you kind of get to recreate in a educational way where people don't get their identity stolen, but they can see how it happens. And you can also we also talk about how to stop it from happening, or the best case scenario stopping it from happening anyway. So Hack Nights is tomorrow night, the first one. I think we only have 6 or 7 registered, which I didn't expect tons of people, but if you're free tomorrow night from 6 to 8, it's going to be in this classroom. I'll buy pizza. We're just going to kind of have an intro night, hang out, talk about what everybody wants to do. It's for anybody generally interested in technology, and it doesn't have to be hackers, or it's not hackers. It's basically people. The term hack is basically a term that's been, a black eye, but hack in itself is somebody that's, tinkers around with whatever and is interested in doing, cool stuff with technology. And so there's been negative connotations with hacking, but we're going to show you the positive side of it. And also not only that, but you can hang out and just, have your own projects that you want to bring in, schoolwork, homework. It can be calculus, programming, any other class, a website you're working on, a website you want to work on, an app, whatever, doesn't matter. And so that's tomorrow night from 6 to 8 in here. Beginners and experts welcome alike. Invite your friends, and you can go to whitehats.us to register, or our Facebook and Twitter accounts both have links how to register as well. It's a meetup account that we ended up putting it on, I believe, because we already had that for our Cocoa Heads, which had like 75 folks connected to that. I think if I click on this, it goes to our meetup. Let me look.
Yeah, I believe it did.
I think it does. I can show you. Yeah. Some of you aren't familiar with Meetup, so I thought I'd click on it to show you what it looks like, what Meetup's all about. So that's the Meetup page, and basically, as you can see, we have 7 going, 13 spots available, because there's only 20 spots in here. But I think we've got, let me see, 39 members so far have signed up. That's good. So that's promising. And so, and it's only been out for a week. I think I put it out there Friday or Saturday, not even a week. So if I'd have publicized this early, you might have more than 7 people. But anyway, so 7's going. Definitely avail yourself to that. A number of these people that are going, let's see, Brandon, he works for Fat Wallet. He's an RVC student. He was heavily involved in our Cocoa Heads. Michael D, is he in here? Is he in my 110? He's in my 110 class. He came to our code. Amy B, she's interested in coming to Rock Valley. Alex, same. Don is a local programmer. Matt B is an IT manager here in town. So anyway, you can go to the whitehats.us, register, or just sign up and become a member. If you can't come tomorrow night, at least become a member. That way you'll get all the notices and all that good stuff. Questions about that? Questions about Hack Nights? It'll be here every Wednesday, as long as there's interest. If interest wanes or people don't want to do it, we'll stop it. But we'll try it for a few weeks, see what happens, see how it goes. So let's go on to the next one. Tech Expo. I think we've got 85 registered now, 86, something like that. It's not till October. That one I did start pushing early. And the idea behind Tech Expo is to bring in local companies and firms that need technology students to hire as interns, full-time and part-time. We're going to have 4 local speakers that'll be speaking. I'll show you the people here. It'll be be Andrea from Tech Comics, Sam Basil from Trek, Jeff Jenkins from Rockford Park District, and Mike Browski he's the president and co-owner of Entree Computer Solutions. All 4 of those will be speaking just for like 10 minutes, not a real long time. But you can go to the website, RVC Tech Expo, read more about their bio, and register for. Right now we've got, let's see, these sponsors are coming, and I have to add still 5 or 6 more. So we've got roughly 11 or 12 so far committed to come, which I'm pretty happy with that. I'd like to get about 20. That's my goal, is to get 20 companies to come. And if you know me, I'll keep pushing until I get 20. So I'll just keep going till it happens. And so, but these are all awesome companies up here, by the way, that are up here right now. Woodward, United Technologies, Trek, Dicomics, Ingersoll, OSF, Entree, Rockford Park District, Savant, Building Management, and then Rockford Mutual Insurance. So avail yourself to that, rvctechexpo.com. Cool giveaways for this one. Thinking here what we got. Let's see, we've got on door prizes, we have an iPad mini, 4 hours of college credits from Rock Valley to be used in fall 2017 or beyond, wireless USB storage, USB thumb drives, and you must be present to win a door prize. So everybody will stay till 8 o'clock because we're not drawing it till 7:55. So anyway, if you do have a CIS class that night, like it's not going to affect our class, but if you have a class after this, or some of you do, you'll be going there anyway because all these CIS instructors are going there with their students. So, but it's still good to register even though you have a class that night for CIS. If you don't have a class in CIS, you can probably ask your instructor in whatever class you do have and let them know about it, and they'll probably work with you if you let them know now, since it's the end of October, I'm guessing. So, but maybe not, but it's worth asking at least. It'd be a good thing to do. Questions on that, RVC Tech Expo? Cool. Went over that, RVC hour of code. Here is the, I did put on here the, on the blog, a picture of all of them up front. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Because at the end of it, they do a cheesy picture and a cheesy video where they have to say hour of code. This time they did we went over if logic, went over logic code on if something happens, then they do this. So I said if then else, then they had to say hour of code. But here's the video for it here. If then else. Hour of code. You look real excited there on that one. But it is 10 o'clock. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, so I can give them grace on that one. They showed up. Okay, so this week is review questions for Chapter 2. The lab, we'll go over in just a bit what we're going to be doing there. And then week 2, Chapter 2, system threats and risk quiz. And then you are going to be picking a research topic by Sunday as well. And in that document for pick research topic is a link to read all the research topics that are available. Plus, remember, at the bottom of that is one that's an elective topic of your choice. So you can choose anything that has to do with network security. And just, you can be creative, which I love, if you can be creative about it, something different. I think I mentioned last semester, a student did one on network security as it pertains to social media and talked about that, which that definitely is a big thing. In fact, tonight, I just met with a student who, I encourage all of you guys to sign up for Twitter, so you'll get all the Twitter feeds and stuff right from me. Well, he's never been on Twitter before. This gentleman I met with before class tonight went in to register with his email, and it said, "You're already registered." He goes, "That's interesting. I've never registered before." So he's about 70 years old, so he, just really started freaking out about it because somebody had his email. Ended up being, he searched back when it happened because he was able to reset the password. It happened in 2009 when it was set up, and there was somebody from Vietnam working on his computer at the time, and lo and behold, the person that registered was from Vietnam, and used his email. But anyway, they got it straightened out. Twitter helped him, but I was teaching him how to follow people, which was kind of interesting. And you know how Twitter will, give you suggestions like Facebook of people to follow or like. He goes, "What if I don't want to follow him?" I said, "You don't have to." And I said, "You just ignore it." "Well, can I block him?" "No, you don't need to block him if you don't follow him. Now, if you follow him and then you find out they start posting stuff you don't like, then you can block them." "Oh, okay." So it was kind of an interesting meeting, but he figured it out. He's going on it, so is following me now. So, but yeah, I mean, that's just an example of network security right there. When he told me about it, I said, "I'm not surprised by that." He goes, "You're not?" I go, "No, it happens all the time." I said, "It happens believe it or not, more than you think, where people sign up with your other people's email accounts to do malicious and non-malicious things." So, all right, so let's go into I'm going to go into the week 2 lab. We'll go to that first. The lab is on NT Reset. We talked already about that already. I put the cat out of the bag last week, I believe, on that. And NT Reset is the lab that basically you'll get a CD with it, step by step, which you really don't need, but I give it to you anyway because it's pretty easy to do. You put the CD in your computer, boot up, and within a couple minutes, when you're first learning, it takes about 2 minutes for it to work. Back up a little bit. You set an admin password to something real difficult, like a 13-character or more password, administrator password. Then you use this tool to go in and clear out that password, and within 2 minutes from booting up, you're in the system, basically. It nullifies the hashed password in Windows and nulls it out to where when you log in, you just type administrator, no password, and you're in the system. And again, you can, you're already thinking, I know, wow, that could do some damage. Yeah, it could. Anything you learn, in fact, everything you learn this semester can be used for evil or good. And so we'll talk about both, though. We'll talk about how it can be used for evil and how it can be used for good, and how to ward against it from happening in IT, being used for evil. Believe it or not, I've been teaching this class for 17 years now. Very rarely I have a student in those 17 years even hear about the tool NT Reset. They've never even heard about it. So every once in a while I get one or two that have, and they're generally already in IT, or they've been tinkering around themselves in high school, and they've already used the tool at home to reset mom and dad's password. They lock themselves out or whatever. And so anyway, it is a great lab. I also put in the lab. You'll notice on there how to reset a Mac OS admin password It's a little different. All you really need to do for a Mac is, if you have the Mac in front of you, is know the right command to type in, and you can get into a Mac computer with a command, if you know the right command. So I'll give you those commands there to do. And so we'll be doing that Thursday. So as soon as you come in, the way we're going to do from now on coming in and using your QR code, on Thursday you won't need to do it because you'll literally be submitting in the lab your name every Thursday. So that'll be your kind of my way of letting me know you were here. So you only have to check in on Tuesdays from here on out. Thursdays you won't have to. So now we're going to talk about malware and social engineering a little bit and attacks in general. Look at some difference between viruses, worms, malware, Trojans, rootkits, and all what they are and describe a little bit about what they do. We'll look at some scenarios of how they're utilized. Then we'll jump into social engineering, which we talked about first week, how social engineering is the number one way for hackers to get into businesses and to get information today. We'll talk about what that's all about. So malware, we've heard of malware. You have Malwarebytes. You might have heard of that software, which is real popular. Good piece of software for malware, anti-malware type of system. But it enters your computer with or without consent of the user. It mostly is annoying. It can be damaging, but for the most part, it's very annoying and can slow your computer down. Primary objective of malware is to infect a system somehow, conceal that it's there, or make profit. Malware behind the scenes will a lot of times do screen scrapes of data, email it to the hacker of bank accounts, login, scripts, things of that nature. Viruses is the next one. This is a malicious code that reproduces itself on the same computer. A virus needs a file that to attach to as a host to live. And once it's attached to that file, like every time you open it up, it spreads. And so it could be an email, it could be a Word document, it could be attached to an Excel document. And what it does is it moves the first 3 bytes of the original file to a virus code and then replaces it with some type of instruction pointing to that virus code. And then every time it's opened, it does a little bit of damage depending upon who coded it. And generally, you don't do a lot. It does a little, just so it's kind of under the radar. Because antivirus has the things called heuretics, which basically can track patterns of what a virus does. And if it's too virusy, it'll catch it as far as how it does things. And so it kind of tries to run under the radar for the most part. Most viruses do. Here's a couple methods of virus infection. Swiss cheese infection. This is where viruses inject themselves into executable code. The original code is transferred and stored into the virus. The host code executes properly after infection. There are a number of viruses out there that are Swiss cheese type of viruses made specifically to attack antivirus. What I mean by that is it'll embed itself into the antivirus software to a point to where the antivirus software becomes a virus, but it still looks like the antivirus software. The updates still look like they're happening. The screens all look the same, but it's literally doing nothing. And the hacker's got his claws in your system. We'll talk about how to, this semester, to guard that from happening. There's some common sense stuff definitely you can do to guard that from happening. I will say up front, the number one way that these things that I'm talking about now, the Swiss cheese virus types, get into systems is when you go to peer-to-peer or illegal downloaded sites where you download pirated software, pirated music, peer-to-peer stuff. That's generally where you're going to find this stuff prevalent. Hackers put chock full viruses in these systems, and you might even, there is argument we could argue about and discuss, are the music folks involved in this possibly? Maybe. Hire a few hackers, create some pretty cool damaging viruses. And there was an example of one that came out a while back. It was I think it was Madonna or something. I think it was Madonna. She had an MP3 that came out years back. This was 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, all these people were getting these viruses after they listened to her MP3 to lock up their computer and all this stuff. She denied anything about it, but where these people were getting it from was peer-to-peer websites, right? And so all her folks would do is go, well, where did you get the music at? We'll check into it. Click, and so nothing ever happened legally, but, makes sense. I don't blame her. Really don't blame her about it. It's her bread and butter, I guess. And again, we could argue about that, the validity or legality of that. But, peer-to-peer sites are still around, where big years ago, it's not so big now. I think it's still in some corners, maybe like LimeWire was a big one. Gotnello is a big one. Mule, where you could go in, and search and find anything you wanted to, from software to music to movies to porn, and download it to your computer. And then a lot of times these files were bogus and guised as whatever music or movie, but it was actually a virus that would infect your computer. So a lot of the machines I find that have the Swiss cheese type of infection to antivirus and stuff, generally are computers that are going to websites and places like that they probably shouldn't be going to. Another one I'll tell you right off the top of my head that's a big one with viruses and malware both is gaming websites online gaming sites, whether it be gambling, whether it be cards, whatever, cards as an example. And it's targeted towards Bridge. You've heard of Bridge, right? You guys heard of Bridge, an old school card game? Well, it's normally, not that the younger generation like you guys don't play it, but it's normally played with, 50 and up for the most part. Okay, but not to say you guys don't play it, because some of you might. It's a fun game. It's a long game, but it's a fun game. But anyway, there's a Bridge website that had ads, like most of them do, because it's free, so, they have ads to generate revenue. Well, a lot of older folks were starting to get malware and viruses from this one company that kind of bypassed some of the things within the system, and you had to sign up, and, anyway, they got pulled eventually from the website. And there was a fairly reputable website that was doing, that hosted these ads. And it could happen to anybody, any company. But there are sites you've probably seen, gaming sites that you went on. Farmville's an example. Anyway, Farmville, it used to be huge. I think it still is, maybe, I don't know.
No, most
But
of the flash games are dead.
Farmville remember using Facebook, used to pop up every 5 seconds and annoy you and everything. Farmville, I think, is in the App Store. I think you're right. They've switched to the App Store now, probably in the Droid and iOS, so it's not as annoying. But really, for gaming, it's more on the annoying malware side, where you get a lot of pop-ups, you get a lot of weird stuff happening, bars for your Internet Explorer or your Firefox browser. It was funny. This one mom was contacting me. Her son couldn't get any homework done, and I said, "Well, what's going on with the computer?" "Well, you can't see the browser." I'm like, "Wait, what are you talking about? Take a picture of it." Took a picture of it. He had a Chrome web browser, Firefox, it didn't matter. But anyway, she took a picture of the monitor. All but this much at the very bottom, like the monitor's just high, right? All but this much was full of bars, the toolbars. It was like 10 toolbars from the top to the bottom. So you literally only had about this much room to read. And so I helped her through how to get rid of the stinking toolbars. And tell Johnny not to download any software. That a lot of these free softwares, by the way, guess what they do? Install toolbars. Google toolbars, Yahoo toolbars, who cares toolbars, and so again, those are junk malware as well. The next one is split infection. This is where viruses splits into several parts and places them in random positions in a host program, and it generally on these executes upon the start of the program, does its dirty work, and then gives control back to the virus code to do ongoing dirty work, ongoing work in the background. A lot of times, a lot of these people, or a lot of this stuff is owned by marketing firms to gather your web activity. Because believe it or not, the number one money-making thing in the world is advertising with getting people's emails. So data mining, you might have heard of that, is where companies pay big money to get a targeted audience of, say, 18 to 24 males that love football coming up. They want to target them with an email of NFL Madden or whatever game is hot now. NFL Madden's not it, but whatever football game's hot now, they're going to target that age range and pay big bucks for it. And so they'll use viruses or impose programs, mostly games, to get this information, to get this web surfing information. And the reason they get around it, the way they get around it is this: when you sign up for games that you download and install, there's fine print that says, oh, by the way, if you install this, it is free, but we can basically do anything we want to as far as search any activity you have on your computer. Now, some of them gotten away with it in courts, but here lately the judges are going, no, that's being misleading. 99.9% of the people aren't going to read the fine print anyway. They're just going to click OK and install your game. And they've lost. A lot of them are starting to lose now, which is a good thing. But split infection can do a lot of damage, but a lot of marketing firms use it to just gather data. Again, more annoying, but it is an invasion of privacy, you could say, for sure. So when an infected computer is launched or a program is launched, a virus replicates itself over and over again. Some of them have what's called a payload, where say, coming up here, 9/11 is coming up, right? Anniversary 9/11. Tons of stuff will come out on that day. A lot of it totally harmless, but most of it will be, anti-ISIS, anti-terrorist type of messages. It'll pop up on people's computers, phones, whatever. And they're payloads. They're already on people's computers and phones right now. They just won't do anything till that day. And then it'll just pop up a video, or it'll pop up a website, and then it'll be done. Basically, that's it.
Doesn't ad block
do I know?
most of those?
Do I know?
Ad block most of those?
Ad block?
Yeah.
Some of them it'll be blocked, but if ad block isn't aware of it, it's not going to block it. But yeah, it'll block most of those. You're right. Yeah. But some of these programs that I'm talking about, as far as the payload ones, you never know when they're going to release their payload. And it could be an actual valid game or a valid program that has been infected with a payload. And again, some of these payloads, it says malicious, but a lot of them aren't malicious. They're just annoying. And you'll see an annoying one here in a second. So viruses may display an annoying message, or they can be harmful. Here's an example of an annoying message that came out years ago. Click this button to reformat your hard drive before you lose all data. Think about that for a second. Just for a second. You don't have to think about it a lot. Just for a second. Okay? Now, what's wrong with that logic? Okay? People did it. All right? They clicked a button. Oh, Windows said, do you want to do this? Yes. Restarted the computer, deleted all the files. Okay? Except for a few system files. So, examples of virus actions could be cause a computer to repeatedly crash, blue screen of death, erase files from or reformat a hard drive, turn off computer security systems altogether, turn off antivirus, turn off firewall, a number of things it could do. Here, this one is hilarious. This has been around for years in this book. I love that they kept it in there. I'm going to see if I can blow it up a little bit more. Okay, I'm blowing it up. Here we go. Now, this is real. This happened. This was a message that was popped up in 2009 or 10, something like that. It made its rounds. The title of the pop-up is important. Please read. I think I speak for every pot smoker in North America when I say legalize marijuana. I mean, if people with AIDS, cancer, and other diseases can use it, then why can't the rest of us pot smokers use it? I don't think it's very fair to you. It's legal to grow and use in places like Australia for personal use. Then why not North America? If doctors are using it as a treatment for illness, and it must not be that harmful, so why can't other people use it? I really do think the federal government should consider legalization of marijuana. Well, that's really all I have to say on the matter. But I do hope someday, somewhere, listens to what I have to say and does not just regard this as another virus, because it's more than that. It's a message for freedom, the freedom to smoke up and have the choice or the chose to do without fear of punishment for the law and government. Thank you for your time. Okay. Okay, not only is it funny, but big things you probably noticed, a lot of misspelling and grammatical errors, right? Hackers aren't generally known for grammar skills, okay? They usually miss stuff, all right? On websites that are phished, a phished website that's it's a fake website you'll learn about this semester. That's a copy of another website, like a Facebook website. They'll copy it to make it look like Facebook, but it's not. They'll forget stuff like the copyright to be updated. Copyright 1999. Okay, well, yeah, most people maybe, or some people might miss that, but it's pretty red flag there. If you're on a known website and it says copyright 1999, that's not good, all right? That's not too smart. Then the other thing a lot of them will do is misspell things. They're just blatant grammatical errors. Well, guess what? Facebook's not going to put blatant grammatical errors in its guidelines for the most part. JCPenney, Sears, PayPal, credit card companies aren't going to put blatant errors and grammatical things, right, on their website. And so hackers will do this, again, because they're, it looks good. The site looks great aesthetically, but grammatically not so great. So red flag when you're reading something like this, it's, again, humorous, definitely, but it's just annoying. It's kind of annoying. It kept popping up on people's computers. They couldn't shut it down. They click OK, logged in, happened again. Until they finally got a program that actually deleted it. It was an executable that popped up, basically. It's stored in the startup of computers. And, until you deleted it, it just kept popping up. And I think it was named something like systemsplural.exe, and it was in the C Windows directory. So, it took a little bit for people to find out where it was. So, and that's another thing hackers will do, is that they'll create programs that are actually system-like in name to where you won't think they're bad, right? Like system.exe. If you look in Windows Task Manager, there's a lot of WinSys and system.exe files. Okay? There are like 20 of them. How are you going to know which one to delete? That's why they do it. When I taught high school, I created this little Windows program that would block. I had a list of blacklist files that kids couldn't run during computer lab. At that time it was MOE. MOE was a big one. What was that M stand for? I can't remember. Of Empire, Ages of Empire, AOE, I'm sorry. AOE, Ages of Empire, remember that one? Trying to think of the other one. Counter-Strike, that was huge. Those two are big ones. They always try to run those. Anyway, this program I created would beep, lock the screen, do a screenshot, and then send it to the admin. And so the person in the lab would be like, all day, putting passwords in, getting bypassed my little security program. It was really a lot of time consuming for them. And the kids couldn't say they didn't do it because it literally gave a screenshot with their name on this computer of the activity they were doing at the time. And it would email to the admin of the computer lab. Anyway, I made it to where it was from that type of annoying computer program to what it would do was, and we had a two-way glass in the computer lab. The IT guy could stand there and watch them. Kids would come in where they're supposed to be in study hall, and they would start up. You usually have a kid come in, like one kid come in to start, like on Counter-Strike, you'd have somebody come in to start the server, right? Remember that? You start, you're, okay, Joe, you go in there right after lunch, you start the server, we'll be there in 5 to join you. So we get on the computer, start the server for Counter-Strike, and I made the app do this. It would start up, see the executable, go for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then kill it. And that's all it did. It didn't do a flash, didn't do a message. Anyway, you'd see him go and open it up like 3 or 4 times, right? And after about the 4th time, the kid would go, just forget it. He'd get up and he'd walk out of the classroom and he'd tell the guys on the way out, it's not working. These computers suck in here. Nothing works. And so I loved it, man. It was awesome. I wish I would have had a video of that. I would have like won $10,000 or something. But it's like every day these kids would try it over and over again. And I remember at the end of the year, one of the kids goes, I don't know. I didn't say something, Mr. Conkle, but every time we start some programs here, they die in like 10 seconds. I don't know why. I'm like, yeah, I'll have to look into that. Me and the IT guy just walked back into the room and just cracked up. I was literally crying. I was laughing so hard. Oh my gosh. But that was annoying for sure, but it was on purpose. But viruses can be annoying as well. And guess what? On purpose. Some hackers do these things on purpose to annoy you. And that they get a kick out of it. Anyway, malware, though, what it'll do is it'll spread, but differently than viruses. Viruses cannot automatically spread to another computer. But viruses are attached to other things. They rely on people to do something like open them up. And then viruses are spread by transferring infected files. And so back in the day, it used to be viruses are attached like executable or Word, Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, things of that nature. Today, they're attached to things like email attachments, Facebook games, pictures, stuff like that. This goes on and on. But it has to attach itself. So types of computer viruses are program level, that's attached to a program executable, a macro, which is a script that automatically runs when something opens up. Like an example, Word, Excel, Power, all Microsoft programs have macro abilities, meaning I can go behind the scenes in any document that Microsoft creates and do what's called a VBA code, and I can execute anything I want to. I can execute a website to launch, a computer program to run, a message to pop up, whatever. And as long as the person that runs the app or the program says okay to a macro, it does whatever the programmer programmed into the macro. Does that make sense? And it can be something that can be malicious. And you probably opened up files that people have sent you and says, ooh, by the way, this has a macro. Do you want to click OK and make sure it goes, make sure you want it? And most people will say yes if they know the person, because they're thinking, well, like an example, some spreadsheets have macros that will dynamically update data every few seconds. That makes sense, right? So it'll actually look at a website, like say a stock market spreadsheet, where it updates data from the actual stock market on a semi-regular basis, and it has a little macro that does it. There's a little timer that runs, and it goes out to a website and downloads the data. That makes sense. But not every macro is inherently safe. Just because it is a friend of yours that sent it, it could just be something that's been passed around. So beware of that. I always ask if I see a macro on a spreadsheet or a Word document, it's generally on a spreadsheet where you'll find them. I'll just contact the person and say, hey, I got a macro pop up. What's this for? They'll say, oh yeah, that's for a data thing we have updated every few minutes or whatever. Just want to make sure. And this is what I do, and I'd suggest to people, if you do have a macro in an Excel spreadsheet, when you email the document, explain to the person before, when you're saying, oh, Joe, click on the attachment. Oh, by the way, it has a macro that is doing this, this, and this, and you will get a warning, but it's okay to click OK so you can open it up. So just kind of word to the wise on that. It'll help people from pulling their hair out or not getting the data update every few moments like it should. A resident virus is a virus that infects files opened by the user or operating system. So every time you open a shortcut, it does its stuff. Every time you go to a certain bookmark on a web page, it does its stuff. The next one is a boot virus. This affects what's called the MBR record of your computer, the master boot record. The master boot record holds things like your drive letters, the make of your hard drive, the make of your CD-ROM or DVD, the make of your mouse, keyboard, monitor, the make of your computer chip on your motherboard. So it keeps a lot of stuff in the boot sector. Boot order is also in the boot sector virus, the boot record. So what order things are booted up, what I mean by that is, in today's computer, the order generally is going to be hard drive, then USB. Because most computers don't even have CD-ROMs or DVD players if it's a laptop. If it's a desktop, a lot of times it's DVD, then hard drive, then USB. And so if you put a DVD in there like a game and you start your computer, it's going to start up with that DVD. And so boot sector viruses, the reason they're so popular is it can affect your computer from even starting. It can lock it up to where you can't even start it. And so in those cases, you can use specialized tools from like Symantec or Norton that can kill a lot of these boot sector viruses. But I have seen boot sector viruses that totally trashed a hard drive, just totally trashed it. The person let it go to the point to where it was beyond retrieving and fixing, and that can happen too. So word of the wise, anytime you suspect a boot sector virus, what's going to happen is you notice your boot sequence has changed. Why is it asking me for a DVD, or why is it looking for my USB to boot? That's weird. Could be a boot sector virus is starting up possibly. And so there are quick scans you can do. Most antivirus can do a boot sector virus check. And what it'll do is in your antivirus, say I want to check for boot sector virus, and upon reboot, it'll actually check to see that you don't have one. And most all of them have that feature. Now we're getting into worms. Yeah, go ahead.
Are those common anymore?
They're not as common as they used to be. They are not as common, but I have seen in the last year, believe it or not, on laptops, I've seen a few boot sectors float around, but it's not as popular as it used to be.
They were
No.
bad in XP. I had two
Yeah, XP had
drives.
some bad ones. Yeah.
But, one of them I managed to recover using a Linux backdoor.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, it actually erased the knowledge of its own drive.
Yeah.
So there's all the information, I can't even get anything
Right.
into it.
And most of your operating system disks will have what's called an MBR fix, which will fix, it's literally an MBR.exe file that you just type it in a command prompt and it can fix your MBR for you. But a lot of people don't know that. And so today it's actually called system recovery, I think is what it's called.
Sometimes
And
it works.
sometimes it works, sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't. So, but worms is the next one we're going to talk about. It's malicious in nature. It exploits an application or an entire operating system's vulnerability. This one attacks people's laziness to update security patches. And what I mean by laziness is, it doesn't take too long to just allow security patches to update for the most part. If you let them go over time, yeah, it can take hours if you let them keep building. But for the most part, like if you have a Windows machine, monthly, make sure you have all the latest security patches, which is no big deal to do. Most of your computers have the ability, when you buy them now, to just automatically update security patches. And then you can say on other patches, I want to wait on those. But security patches, definitely. But malicious programs exploit security patches. And they can also, a worm can send copies of itself to other networks. Worms do not need to attach themselves to a file. They can do fine all by themselves, like a real worm. They can just go wherever you lay it, and it can go and do its stuff and need it and get its resources and put its payload out. Here's some example of worms in the past and present even. Deleting computer files periodically, and not like a whole bunch, just a little bit at a time. They generally start with, say, stuff that's non-essential in your systems directory that doesn't really affect much with what you do on a daily basis. Allowing remote control of your computer by an attacker, a backdoor worm, where back in the Windows XP days, there was a messenger service in Windows that had a hole in it, a backdoor, where a worm got in and people could remote control easily into a Windows XP machine with a guest account. And so a lot of IT folks now just block messenger system file services from running, even though Microsoft has said they've fixed it, which I believe they probably have. But there was such a headache with it years ago that people just still don't trust it, so they just turn it off. And Messenger, you're probably thinking, remember Microsoft Messenger? Remember it used to be popular for like a week or two? It had to have Messenger services to run, among other things, because Messenger would allow you not only to chat, but if I was working with you with Messenger, I could remote your computer, and then vice versa, you could remote my computer using that same service, Messenger service. So here is an example of some actions between these different types of definitions of viruses and worms. So here we have an action. How does it spread to other computers? A virus, because a virus is attached to a file, it can spread by users transferring files to one another. A worm can use a network. It can use a USB drive. It can use a floppy disk, which some old computers might have around still. Not much though, right? I got a few over here. And then you could also use, I'm trying to think, cloud. Cloud services definitely today. Worms are getting a part of and joining the bandwagon. How does it infect things? Viruses, by inserting code into a file. An example would be a virus can insert code to bypass the key to buy that software. Remember, the keys you have to type in sometimes when you buy software. Some viruses can bypass that. They call them keygens, Keygen, that will hack into a software to bypass the key to where a person can use it illegally, pirated type of software. And then worms, the way they get in and affect things is exploit vulnerabilities in applications. Does there need to be user interaction on a virus? Yes, but a worm doesn't. Can it be remote controlled? No on a virus, yes on a worm. Trojans. This is a program that actually says it is something, but it does something else. A Trojan would be like a game that says it's a card game, like I talked about earlier, but it also in the background is gathering your web activity. That would be a Trojan. Okay. Typically, they're ran on executable programs. They contain code that launches an attack. Sometimes they are made to appear as a data file. An example, free. The word free gets people every time. And this is where Trojans really camp around free programs, free software, free apps, whatever. The program scans the system for credit card numbers and passwords, sends it to the attacker. It transmits information to the attacker through the network. The information could be on screen scrapes every few seconds when it sees an HTTPS URL session. It's been known patterns of people in the U.S. and even worldwide, we could say, browse the banks at certain times through the week, right? Hackers know that, and you'll learn what those times are this semester and how they create programs around it to get information. Also, the next one is rootkits. We talked a little, I mentioned it last week a little bit, how rootkits mainly attack servers, but they do every once in a while attack client computers and laptops. A rootkit is designed to basically hide its actions and remove itself from all logs or log entries, and it's specifically designed to ignore malicious activity. And so here's an example of a rootkit. In Windows, there's a command prompt called cmd.exe that if you type in cmd in the run command in Windows for years, you get a little DOS prompt comes up screen, and you can type command files in there. You can type, you can create folders, files, upload things. If you know what you're doing, you can type in any DOS command to do a bunch of cool stuff. Anyway, what rootkits will do is say they'll take over a command prompt. They take over that command prompt. And so every time that IT person uses it, it starts its dirty work by recording keystrokes of the IT person as they're typing it in the command prompt, also recording screen scrapes of their screens as they're typing it. As soon as the screen is shut down, the DOS window is shut down, it stops like any program and then sends that file log to the attacker. That's an example of a rootkit. So you can imagine that's why it's so untraceable or very hard to trace. The only way antivirus can catch it is by name. If it's so popular, it knows the name, and all these antivirus companies on a minute by minute basis are always given names that's adding to their blacklist, right? That constantly updates your computer and the servers around the world. Well, as these rootkits get popular, they become a big name. But as soon as that happens, guess what happens? The attackers change it to something else. Yes. And there's literally hundreds and hundreds and thousands of iterations of names that they can come up with. And you could say, wow, that really keeps the antivirus companies in business. Yeah, it does. Interesting. Not going to go there. Anyway. Malware, as far as rootkits go, can be detected using programs that compare contents of files with original files. All this stuff here that's saying in the book is generally, not that it's incorrect, but the most common way a rootkit is found is through the name of it. That's it. It's because it hides itself so well, you can't, because unless the virus or antivirus company knows the code that the programmer programmed, they're not gonna know how to figure out that it's a rootkit. Because it does things, it's not malicious in nature, it doesn't, just like I mentioned earlier, behind the scenes sending information. It could just be using regular internet, stuff, and every so often send some files, nothing real peak, not any type of, whole bunch of bandwidth being used, just every so often. Maybe a good time to do it, be 3 a.m. Everybody's gone, great time to do it. In fact, a lot of malicious activity happens between the time you hit the pillow and get up in the morning. With your computer on, nobody's on it, is when hackers and these software programs we're talking about tonight actually do a lot of their dirty work is the middle of the night, basically. They get their payloads and all their stuff, because people's asleep. And if some of these people saw their monitors, they'd be like, man, guys, this computer is possessed or something. It's just doing a whole bunch of cool stuff all night long, and I'm not even sitting there. So yeah, it definitely does happen, and there are ways to keep this from happening. One of the best ways, keep your antivirus updated for sure. Keep your security plugs updated, your security updates updated on your computer. Those are the top 2 common sense things you can do that, believe it or not, will stop a lot of this stuff from happening. And then thirdly, not visiting websites or doing activity on your computer that could add lots of junk. And we've already talked about those places. And so if you do those 3 things I just mentioned, you'll pretty much be fine. I will tell you right now, hackers that do this for a living, black hat hackers that do this for a living, follow the rules I just mentioned. They keep their security logs updated, the security operating systems updated, all the patches. They keep the antivirus updated, and they don't visit sites they shouldn't visit. So if hackers do it, we should do it, right? That's what their computers aren't going to be infected. Their computers are clean. They got work to do. They got people's money to steal. It's going to hurt their business. So we follow the same rule. So here's some logic bombs. Logic bomb is basically a computer code that lies dormant for a while and then boom, goes off. Remember the 2000 scare, the year 2000 logic bomb scare? What's going to happen on January 1, 2000? Are these computers even going to work? Is Wall Street going to shut down? Is the internet going to shut down? Is it the end of the internet, Al Gore? Is it going to be over now? We're not going to have it anymore. And so all these conspiracy theorists came out, and nothing really happened much on January 1, 2000.
Says it was the wrong date anyway, because we used
Well, there was some older computers that had issues with date 2000,
There's some old, turnover issues.
but for the most part, wasn't bad at all. But there are some logic bombs out there that we'll learn about this semester. One that actually the U.S. was involved in, and I don't remember if it's in this chapter or not, but it's a logic bomb that they put in a Soviet pipeline to blow up, to destroy a pipeline that they didn't want them to have. And it worked, and it blew up, and it destroyed their plans of that pipeline. And we were a part of that. Backdoors, another one that's you've heard of, basically for software coming in through a back door to give access. I'm a programmer, so as a programmer, we always create backdoors to come into stuff because we're programming it every day, and we don't want to have to type in a username and password to get into something. So a lot of times we create a backdoor to easily get into something and circumvent the security on purpose, just to make our lives easier to work and do our stuff. But a lot of times when they go to release mode and live mode, those back doors, they're still wide open. Because guess what? Developers are still working on it, and they're still making updates for it. But one thing leads to another. Maybe one of the developers doesn't get a raise. They quit. What's the first thing they do? Whistle blow. Time to go out and do some hacking. Make some money. And so, that happens. A disgruntled employee opens up the gates to the back door, what's happened, and lets hackers know about it. And there have been cases, not in the papers or in the news, to where folks like this have gotten money to keep quiet, to not let that information out because the companies didn't want to patch the back door. And there's been cases where they've been hired back, too, with the position they wanted. So a lot of things like that have happened in the past. So here's some couple things about malware. The logic bomb was planted in a financial services computer network that caused 1,000 computers to delete critical data. the reason disgruntled employee had counted on this cause to cause the company's stock price to drop, and the employee would earn money from the price drop. The logic bomb did detonate, yet the employee was caught. He was sent to 8 years in prison and to pay $3.1 million in restitution. So that one didn't work out too well for him. Next was a logic bomb at a defense contractor designed to delete important rocket project data. Employee's plan was to hire a highly paid consultant to fix the problem. The logic bomb was discovered, disabled before it was triggered. The employee was charged with computer tampering, $5,000 fine. The last one, health service logic bomb, was to be set off on the employee's birthday. The employee was angered that he might be laid off, although he wasn't. Bad one there. The employee was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison and paid $81,200 in restitution to the company. So that one didn't work out too well either.
How were these guys caught then?
Do what?
How were these guys caught?
Variable. A lot of times people are caught word of mouth. They blab about at the bar. They blab about to their friends. You know, it's not like they get kind of, you know, haughty about it, I think, sometimes.
What I did,
And it might be a friend of theirs, and their friends are like, and they, you know, they tell on them. So the types of malware for profit are botnets, you might have heard of, which is basically millions of computers or hundreds of computers or thousands of computers all connected together at 3 a.m. in the morning to do data collection. There are actually good botnets as well that companies use for supercomputer type of calculations. But then there's botnets that are used to take over city electrical grids, things of that nature. Spyware, you've heard of that. It used to be around a lot more than it is now. I'm not saying it isn't around anymore, but not as much as it used to be. And spyware and adware, you've heard of those. Adware just popped up a whole bunch of junk. Spyware was there to, you know, sneak in on your data and your traffic. And then keyloggers to keep track of all of your key logging activities. Yes?
Now, one thing that I haven't run into lately, so maybe it's not a thing anymore, but what about browser hijackers?
Browser hijackers, we talked a little bit last week. There are still groups that have competitions to hijack websites, hacker communities to hijack websites, and so it's still around. It's
Okay,
just
not so much on the user end.
no, not on the consumer end, no. But like big companies, it happens to. Like in the last 3 years, I know it happened to Google, it happened to Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg's account was hacked into. You know, it happens to big names for sure. But you and I mean, if it happens to us, we're doing something right, I guess. I don't know.
I still have an old disk with hijack this.
Oh, okay, yeah, hijack this, yeah, exactly, yep. Botnets are programs that affect computers could be allowed to be remote controlled by an attacker. Often payloads of Trojans, worms, and viruses happen on that one. And then they're also called zombie computers, where they can be put together to do the same thing over and over again on day-by-day basis. A lot of times it'd be for data collection. It can be for calculations of some type. Early botnet attackers use IRC. You might remember those days. IRC was real popular in the music world, hacker world. Even students use it. I know valid for communication. Had a lot of channels on it of different types of interesting channels you could find on IRC. But this was HTTP, meaning very insecure, because HTTP didn't have any security on it. But because it didn't have security on it, it was prime grounds for botnets. Anybody had an IRC client could be actually considered one of the zombies easily. Botnets' advantages for attackers where they operate in the background, visible, often with no visible evidence, and then provide means for concealing actions, can remain active for years, and large percentages of zombies are accessible at a given time, like due to growth of always-on internet services, which all of our computers are on all the time. And there are some positive uses of botnets too. Like I said, there's cancer research programs that you can download that actually in the middle of the night will do data collection and computations that help research, numbers and number crunching and stuff. It's kind of cool. I want to go to one or two more slides, and I'm going to do a little quiz here. Spyware, it's around today, but not as much. Mainly spyware today does a lot of the top one, slowing your computer performance. It could hijack your homepage, not so much anymore, those we already talked about. Toolbars, definitely still around. New software you download for free has that. So spyware technologies that are used, automatic downloads, passive tracking, system modifying software, meaning all these I mentioned are stuff people, once they install it, don't have to do anything else. It just constantly updates in the background. Adware, still around, not as much as it used to be, but it's still there. I think it's more moved to mobile, Adware has, if I'm not mistaken. Probably mobile apps, websites, makes sense, that's what people use now. But it can do this on the mobile too, on the bottom one. Adware can still be used today to track your activity, for sure. If you download an app, make sure and read the fine print, because some apps, while you're running them, will track your activity of where you're at location-wise. Yeah, where it can even track movement, some of them. So be real careful on that. Again, it's not gonna be something that's going to hurt you or hurt your phone, but it's, it's invasion of privacy. Downside of malware or adware for users, may display objectionable content, yeah. Pop-ups definitely can, make you lose productivity, cause crashes of apps, and basic nuisance. Keyloggers, mainly used for the the middle one, credit card numbers, personal information. This is old school keylogger. It's actually a hardware one that plugged in the back of a USB drive, and the keylogger was a little black piece there. We'll say that other one's a keyboard or something, actually, that this plugged into. And it can capture information as it comes in. Now I'm going to read one slide on social engineering, even though we could spend a lot of time on it. But social engineering is relying on trusting the nature of individuals, and the goal is to persuade victims to provide information and take action immediately. Flattery, flirtation, conformity, and friendliness. This happens a lot in tech conventions, after-hour parties, social events, where people leave their tablets down, they lay down, get a drink, and the person sitting next to them strikes up a conversation. The person feels pretty comfortable. Hey, I gotta go to the restroom. You mind keeping an eye on my stuff? Yeah, no big deal. And while they're gone, start scanning some stuff, getting some information, and lo and behold, their company gets taken over in a couple days. Happens. And so social engineering is definitely the number one way that companies are taking over, hostile takeover, meaning a larger company buying a smaller company, but the smaller company doesn't want to sell. Social engineering a lot of times comes into play there. And it's guys through like a salesperson in IT, you're meeting somebody that you didn't think you knew or you didn't know at a party, and you leave something like a laptop, phone, or whatever, and they gather information. Or the person gets totally plastered and they just start giving information out. That happens too. And so, okay, switching gears here. I'm going to stop.